And let's go here, Ben Maller. The Steelers. Their quarterback situation's been abysmal. It's just awful, kind of like the Jets the last few years. Just nobody who can deliver the football or score in the offense or make things happen, so they go out. Not only do they get Russell Wilson for $3 in a bag of balls, but they also pick up Justin Fields, and they get him for nothing, like a 6th-round pick. Like nobody wanted this young top pick, quarterback who played in Chicago, and nobody wanted him either. So they got 2 quarterbacks. I think that without question, you got to go with Russell Wilson. You go with the 35-year-old. You go with the guy who went to the Super Bowl twice. You go with the guy who had a decent season last year in Denver. I know Sean Payton hated him from day one and tried to sabotage everything and just didn't want him there, which is fine. But there are people who think that Justin Fields should be the quarterback, the young guy and all this. I just think if you're Mike Tomlin, and I know he got a new contract extension, but if you're the Steelers and you got a defense and you got a lot of other pieces, parts, but you're missing the quarterback, I would go with the proven veteran to start. Once Russell Wilson proves to me that he's no longer a starting quarterback or he's not that good anymore, then you can move on. But you don't go the other way where you put the kid in first and then have the kid falter and then try to go back to the veteran. I just think this is obvious. Russell Wilson first, let him play, and let's see what he can do. And if not, then you could talk about maybe the season's lost. Maybe you realize that things aren't going to happen and you put the kid in. But you, Ben, don't like either choice.
I don't, because what I've seen, you can't judge too much on these practice games because it's pretty painful watching these exhibition football games. But that said, listening and parsing the words of Mike Tomlin, it sounds like he knows he is stuck between the devil and the deep blue sea here, either direction that he goes. And I would argue, Rob, that Russell Wilson's been done for 3 years, that he just hasn't gotten the memo.
Well, wait a minute, Ben. He had a decent year last year for Denver. Be honest. Come on now.
He didn't actually. I mean, if he had a decent year, if he showed anything, you think Sean Payton would have gotten rid of him? I think the numbers were okay.
Sean Payton didn't like him, but he didn't like him before he got there.
But those were empty stats that Russell Wilson had last year in Denver. He put up empty numbers for the Broncos last year, and they dumbed down the offense or whatever. And yeah, Mike Tomlin could do that in Pittsburgh for Russell Wilson. And you look at the numbers on your tablet, and they're like, well, Russell's not that bad. But even at the end in Seattle, the Seahawks were not devastated to get rid of him, because he was showing signs of falling off the table. And I look at Justin Fields. Every year, Justin Fields, since he's gotten to the NFL, has all the razzle-dazzle. He wins the highlights on social media. There's people campaigning for him to be the starting quarterback, and he's got this panache. He won the MVP from the TV people in the offseason before the 2023 season, but then when he actually has to play, it's a hot mess. So it's like the side. If you're Mike Tomlin, on one side, you have manure, and on the other side, you got fertilizer. So it doesn't matter which direction you're going to go at this particular point. Now, what they should have done, because I have the answer. I activated the Maller think tank.
I figured you must have the answer.
They screwed this up. Yeah, they screwed this up. What they should have done is added Jameis Winston in the offseason, who was available, but they're not going to get him now. He's in Cleveland. He's the backup, which means he'll probably play because Deshaun Watson will get hurt. But that's the guy I would have gone after. And instead, they got Russell Wilson, who's on his last legs, and Justin Fields, who's good for 3 or 4 highlight plays a game, and that's about it.
The only problem is you got to pick between these two. That's what they have.
Well, I know. I
and
understand.
so you think they have no shot with either one of these guys. I think that when you consider that somehow every year they have a record over 500 with really no quarterbacking, like that's the part that's amazing, with like zero quarterbacking. It's like the Jets. They won 7 games with no quarterback. I mean, if Aaron Rodgers isn't worth 3 wins or 4 games, I don't know who is, because they haven't had anybody. And the same thing with Pittsburgh. I just think Russell Wilson did enough last year for me to give him an opportunity to see him play. And if it's, I know he's 35. I get it.
I didn't see what you saw. I know the numbers were all right.
What do you mean? But the numbers were fine. Like I don't understand what numbers you have an issue with. You can't have it both ways. If a guy plays well, you got to give him some credit.
Well, I didn't think he played well, though. Watching the Broncos, like I didn't see every game last year, but when I watched him,
did Sean Payton do a good job coaching last year? The Broncos when they gave up the 70 piece. Did they get?
Well, they quit on him that game in Miami. You don't give up 70 if the team's trying.
A 70 piece.
Quit on a 70 burger, yeah, and all that. But no, I mean they ran a rudimentary offense, Rob, in Denver last year. And yeah, the Steelers could do that, and the numbers will look okay. But the Broncos' offense was not. It was not good. It was not an effective offense. It was a putrid palooza was what it was for the Broncos last year on offense. So while individually, if you look at the numbers, like, well, Russ wasn't that bad, when you actually watch on a game-by-game basis, not that good. Not impressed. This is if you want to be a legit contender. Yeah, can the Steelers win 8 or 9 games again, be right around mediocre?
They've won 8 or 9 games with no quarterback.
Yeah, well, they have a defense. They have an elite. Every year they have a top 5 defense. That's what I'm saying. So
you're saying that you're not going to get any kind of...
What I'm saying is they're going to be the same as they have been. It's not going to be any better with Russell Wilson. They might as well they should have kept Kenny Pickett,
I disagree.
who also stinks. Pickett's terrible.
I mean, I disagree. I just think the Sean Payton thing with Russell Wilson, he didn't want him there. And it was just a bad whole vibe, even before going in on that. And that's fine. I just think if I'm the Steelers, I got to go with the veteran. You went out, you got him. Let this guy play. I'm not going to sit here and talk about some preseason game and what they look like. And oh my God, they couldn't move the football or whatever it was. They couldn't get the offense going. The preseason doesn't do that for me. I once watched the Lions go 4-0 and destroy their opponents in all 4 games. And guess what happened that year, Ben? Do you remember?
Well, of course, Rob.
They went 0-16. Yes, that was the year.
Who was the quarterback that year for the Lions? Was that who was it? Dan Orlovsky? Was he part of that?
Yeah, he might have been a part of that. Yeah, that's when he ran out of the end zone. You remember that famous play? Yeah.
But I'm a Mike Tomlin fan. I love Tomlin. He's great for what we do, Rob. All the quotes, the fat and sassy, and all that, and whatever. He's got a million different sound bites, which are great, and he'll coach up whoever's there. But don't tell me that Russell Wilson's good. All right, he's not.
He's better than what they've had, and
I don't think he is. I think he's more of the same.
Really,
the sequel is the equal to what they've had, and the Broncos last year. Russell Wilson, you said he had a good season. The Broncos' offense was 26th in the NFL.
Look at his numbers, though.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. That's my
instead of giving me that, give me his numbers last year. He didn't turn the ball over a lot. He played fine. Was he great? Was he an All-Pro? No.
They played safe. You have to play both. You can't just play conservative all the time. You know that, Rob. You've done columns about that over the years. You've got to be an attack mode. And the numbers individually look okay, but the offense, what it reminds me of? Daniel Jones. The Giants a couple years ago made the playoffs. They actually won a playoff game against the Vikings.
They did. I remember that.
People said, look at Daniel Jones. He's arrived. The Giants, they gave him some more money. They paid him. And yet that season, the Giants' passing offense was like 25th in the NFL. But yet, if you looked at Daniel Jones' numbers, it was fine, and it was very similar. It was like a carbon copy. What the Broncos did with Russell Wilson last year with Sean Payton was similar to what Daniel Jones did the year prior with the Giants, where you looked at the numbers like, well, that's not bad, but that you watch in the context of the game, and it stinks. That's my point. That's what I'm saying.
I hear you. I mean, you're not alone. There are people who just don't think that it was good. But if I have the 2 quarterbacks, I'm going to go with Russell Wilson.